Greetings, and I would like to present in today's video a very tragic incident which happened in May of 1890, and this was an explosion in a watch shop. Now, this video is titled 1890, The Night Nyon Wept, the Clock Struck Tragedy. Now, we have this watchmaker, Auguste Montandon, who was located in Nyon at Grand Rue, number 231. And now he is not found in Devon Almanacs until the 1890 edition. This would have been published at the end of 1888, or rather 1889, for 1890. But however, we do find a series of articles in the local press which demonstrate that as early as 1883, he had taken over the business of another individual at this watch shop, which became his own business. And we'll see after his death in 1890, we later find by 1891, there's already a successor in that location, essentially inheriting the customers that he had. But I would like to present several articles about this episode and explain what exactly happened and why there was an explosion. So let us look at the first article, and this is from a local newspaper, and we are written to from Nyon. It states, on Friday, May 16th at nightfall, the bell of the chateau rang out wildly, raising the alarm among the inhabitants of Nyon and calling them outside. The streets were immediately filled with people, anxiously asking, what has happened? A fire at the Montandon house. Which one? The one from Bois Bogie? No, the watchmaker on the Grand Rue. And the crowd surged in that direction. Indeed, it was the home of Mr. Montandon, an established watchmaker in the building at the corner of Grand Rue and Rue Wept. That an explosion causing a fire had just occurred. Thanks to the prompt help of neighbors and passers-by and the efforts of firefighters who quickly arrived at the scene, the fire had not had time to spread. But a horrifying rumor was circulating from mouth to mouth, casting terror and dismay over the crowd. There are victims. Madame Montandon and her brother James were struck down by the explosion. Rescuers have just brought out their horribly burned bodies. As for Mr. Montandon, neighbors still in shock reported seeing him escape from the inferno, running in a frenzy, his clothes ablaze, and then throwing himself into the basin of a nearby fountain. These details are horrifying. People shudder with horror, hearts feel clenched as if in a vice. And the child, there is a child, what happened to him? People asked anxiously. Fortunately, he is alive, for by the greatest chance, while the disaster was destroying his home, reducing everything to ashes and turning him into an orphan, the child, barely 5 years old, was playing with the carefree spirit of his age in a neighboring house. Without this chance circumstance, we would be mourning yet another victim. But how could such a disaster happen in a watchmaker's shop? This is the question on everyone's mind. It appears that Mr. Montandon had received that afternoon a canister of benzene, which began to leak and eventually exploded while burning, pulverizing everything and everyone inside the shop. Mr. Auguste Montandon, Madame Laure Montandon, and her brother James Montandon were originally from the Locle and Neuchâtel. The dreaded news was quickly sent by telegraph, and Mr. Montandon's father, along with the pastor Montandon, uncle of the unfortunate victims, came at once. The grief of the old father was heart-wrenching to witness. Despite the seriousness of his condition, Mr. Montandon, who had been taken from Dr. Miaville to the infirmary, still had the strength to live until Sunday evening at 10 o'clock. At that moment, in a delirious state, Mr. Montandon uttered these final words. Laura, Laura, you're calling me. I hear you. I'm coming to you. Then he closed his eyes. He had ceased to suffer. The burial of Madame Laura Montandon and her brother James Montandon took place on Monday the 19th of this month in the cemetery of Nyon. The entire population of Nyon, men and women of all classes, came to pay their last respects and offer their heartfelt sympathy to these dear victims. And in the presence of the two flower-covered coffins, as Pastor Landry delivered an eloquent and moving tribute to the simple, courageous, and dignified life of the Montandon family, now gone, this family so close-knit, whose members loved each other deeply, even the most hardened hearts felt themselves soften, and eyes were filled with tears. Leaving the cemetery, everyone thought, alas, it's not over. One grave remains open, awaiting a coffin. We will return tomorrow. I remember once stopping during a walk in the forest to look at a tree struck by lightning. Amid its half-burned branches, one could see a small pile of ashes that before the catastrophe had been a joyful nest of love and tenderness. And now I can no longer pass by the house that was once the Montandons without recalling that lightning-struck tree and the nest turned to ashes. So this is, of course, basically signifying that the third victim, and this was Auguste Montandon, the watch shop owner, who ran to the fountain and extinguished the flames in the fountain. He had been severely burned. He would die on Sunday, the 19th, at 10 o'clock. So he would be the third coffin. So we do have this now. We do know that Auguste had married his cousin Laura Montandon and James. So they were cousins, and Laura was the wife of Auguste Montandon. Now he was from the orfèvre, or the goldsmiths branch of Montandon orfèvre, and it's a very illustrious watchmaking branch in the family. But I would like to continue with a second article, and this is after his death. This was from, I believe, the 20th of May, and this is from the Chronicle de la Côte, another local newspaper, and it reads as follows. Nyon, a very painful event, plunged our city into deep consternation. On Friday evening, around 7:14 p.m., a terrible explosion occurred in Mr. Auguste Montandon's watchmaker's shop on the Grand Rue. It was caused by the rupture of a carton of benzene, the vapors of which caught fire upon contact with the kitchen fire. Mrs. Montandon and her brother were burned alive in an instant. Mr. Montandon was able to escape through a side door and throw himself into a nearby fountain. Unfortunately, his burns were so widespread that this third victim of this terrible event expired Sunday evening at 10:12 a.m. The fire was so intense that there was a moment of real panic among the crowd that the alarm bell had brought to the scene of the fire. In a very short time, about 10 minutes, the firefighters had mastered the fire, but it had already accomplished its work of destruction. And only 2 partially charred and disfigured corpses were removed. The building was slightly damaged due to the speed of the rescue. The furniture and merchandise, on the other hand, were almost destroyed or so damaged by the fire that their value is almost nil. What particularly moves our population is the fact that this young and interesting family enjoyed the esteem and affection of all. And this separation, so unforeseen, so tragic, and so overwhelming, seems to many people like a bad dream. Unfortunately, the desolate appearance of the abandoned home only too confirms that sad reality. All that remains of the Montandon family, which consisted of 4 people, is their only son, aged 4, who was lying in the street at the time of the terrible catastrophe and was thus able to escape the terrible fate of his parents. Yesterday at 3 o'clock, the burial of Miss Laure Montandon and her brother James Montandon took place amidst a considerable crowd of people. The 2 coffins literally disappeared under the flowers and the wreaths that many friends had placed. At the grave, the Pastor Landry gave a moving speech recalling the simple, modest, and honest life of this family, in which peace and happiness reign, and which a cruel fate has just annihilated in such a painful way. Many tears flowed silently and testified to the deep and unanimous regrets of that the deceased leave among us. May the earth be light upon them. Today at 1 o'clock, the funeral of Mr. Auguste Montandon, the 3rd victim of the said event, will take place. So what do we know of this watchmaker apart from these articles? Now, we do know that he is listed in the 1890 Davoine Almanac. This would be the only listing that he was mentioned in the Davoine Almanac. So this would have been published in 1889 for the 1890 edition. Now, he is, of course, clearly in watchmaking before this publication. We find from the Courrier de la Coste this article, basically an advertisement or notice. This is 1883, Magasin de horlogerie, bijouterie, lunetterie, rhabillage en tout genre. So this is a jewelry shop, glasses shop, watch repair shop, and it's at Nyon, Grand Rue 231. Basically this article is stating that Auguste Montandon is taking over the shop from the former Monsieur Perrillard, who had been in business at this location. So clearly he was already selling merchandise and at least making watch repairs in 1883. Now, by 1885, there is another article in this Courrier de la Côte, and this is fundamentally stating that there had been watches left over by this Perrillard, Edward Perrillard, which could still be picked up until a certain time, and after which time they would be disposed of. So he had clearly inherited the stock from this individual's watch business and was trying to return the property to these people. Now, we've another article from the same this Courrier de la Côte from 1886. We find au magasin de horlogerie et bijouterie de Auguste Montandon. So, and now he is offering a grand assortiment de montres, or argent et nickel, garantie et à prix avantageux. So, pendule et régulateur variés. He's basically selling all kinds of a large assortment of watches, gold, silver, nickel, guarantees advantageous prices. There's pendulum clocks and regulator clocks, alarm clocks. He's got all kinds of jewelry for sale, bracelets, chains, gold, silver, metal for ladies and for gentlemen. And also we see medallions, golden medallions of 18 karat gold, brooches, etc. So clearly this is already a business that's in a development on a very good trajectory, we can see. Now, in 1888, another article, and this fundamentally is for like a New Year's gift. This is pushing the idea of a New Year's gift, and articles for Auguste Montandon New Year's gift. And this is Nyon, Grand Rue. From now on, complete restocking of all jewelry items, silver and 18 karat gold. Tested, fine selection of new models, gold, silver, and metal watches, clocks, regulators, fancy and ordinary alarm clocks, chains and keys, and with a serious guarantee, which is quite interesting. So we see that he is selling a variety of different watches from 18 karat gold, in essence, the entire gamut or offering that one could expect. So it is not clear how his watches were signed. We can probably expect some form of signature on these watches. Now, was he signing Auguste Montandon Geneva or Genève? There is a watch that we know of. This is an extremely rare, the only Auguste Montandon watch of this kind, and it is gold. And there is another Auguste Montandon gold watch, but with the dial signed. These are the only two Auguste Montandon watches. Now there are A Montandon local watches, which are also most probably an Auguste. However, these are more likely to be different individuals, and these are probably somebody closer to Montandon first. Whereas down in Vaud, outside of Neuchâtel, this is probably more likely to have been a watchmaker signing Geneva or something of this variety. So we do have these series of articles. Then in 1890, of course, this tragedy strikes. Now, after this tragedy had struck, we do find an 1890 article. This is dated June the 19th, and this is an avis, or advice more or less. Les montres et autres objets en réparation chez Monsieur Auguste Montandon peuvent être retirés dès aujourd'hui. S'adresser à Henri Huguenin à Pont-Saint-Jean au 2e étage à Nyon. So these are watches, and you will recall that the article mentioned that fundamentally most of the property in the shop was destroyed. However, there probably would have been some salvageable objects, and so these objects that were left over from his repairing are being offered for the people to collect their property back, and these are addressed to a Henry Huguenin on the second floor of a building at Rue Pont-Saint-Jean in Nyon. So it's not exactly clear. This may have been an allied family member or some sort of relative that was taking care of this business. Or perhaps it was just a very good friend. It's not exactly clear. But of course, Huguenin tends to be a very solid alliance member to the Montandon family. We see it happening many times, but this is not precisely clear how he's related. And we do have an additional note, and this is also Courrier de la Côte, and this is by a J.F. Perrelet, and he is mentioned here as successeur de A. Montandon at 231 Grande Rue Nyon. And he is offering montres, réveils, basically all of the same types of watches, alarm clock watches, pendulums, and also bijouterie. So we have jewelry shop, etc. Orfèvrerie, lunetterie. So we have gold objects, we have glasses, etc. Réparation en tout genre. So more or less we have somebody taking his customers, and at this location, the shop would have been repaired by this time. But this was a J.F. Perrelet. So we do see this progression, and that the customers would have been able to rely on another watchmaker's services. And it's interesting that clearly there was a big following to this location, that everyone knew that this was a watchmaker shop, and so the location was considered precious enough to continue from that location. And so we do have this, but I wanted to talk about this very sad story about this benzene explosion. And clearly, now they mentioned that this canister ruptured, so they did not open. It wasn't a mistake that they made by any by the information that we've been given in these articles. It was approaching dark, and it would not have been likely that they would be opening this canister so late, especially when artificial lighting would have been required. But apparently the vapors contacted with a fire probably after they had closed the watch shop for the evening, were making supper, and it had ruptured, and then the flames just consumed their home. Now this was both their home and their business residence, and this was a common situation at this time. But we do find these details also in the article mentioned. So we have a lot of details about this, the short life of this individual. And I believe he was not even 40 by this time. I believe he was around the age of 35 when he died. So, but we appear to see at least around 7 years that he seems to have been functioning more or less autonomously in business for at least 7 years, from 1883 till 1890. So he did seem to have and the trajectory was on the upward side. So he seems to have been doing rather successful in this small Swiss town, this Nyon, which is basically on Lake Lausanne, or Le Mans, by Lausanne, and we would call it Lake Geneva. But this is a very fascinating yet murky tale that this tragedy had occurred. Now, why was this benzene even required? Now, watchmakers were using this to clean watch dials. So this is most likely what he had this there for, the cleaning of watch dials, perhaps other applications. So it is sad that this happened, and it does give us a little bit of the coloratura of this period too. We see what this watchmaking profession required. They were dealing with dangerous chemicals, and in this case it was a fatal this benzene compound. But I hope this was informative and interesting. Now this is interesting. Also, it should be mentioned that the news of this happened. It happened in May of 1890, and within a week or so, this information had already spread across the Atlantic, and we find it mentioned in a German language Chicago newspaper, which is quite fascinating. Now, this would have been transmitted by telegraph. And they also mention in the article that the uncle, who was a pastor, this Pastor Montandon, and he was also an Auguste Montandon, a pastor of Geneva, that he came for these funerals. So this is a lot of very moving information, and I hope you found it interesting. And if you have any questions about watchmaking or any other related or genealogical questions that you're interested in this family watchmaking brand, I would appreciate to hear from you and receive your feedback. But once again, thank you for your attention, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.